Dr. Emily Brooks stared at the holographic display until her eyes burned, watching the pulsing pattern that shouldn't exist. Around her, the observation deck of the research vessel Hawking's Dream hummed with celebration. Her colleagues passed around bottles of synthesized champagne, toasting humanity's greatest victory. But Emily couldn't tear her eyes away from the readings. "Come on, Brooks. Even you can't work through a party this good." Dr. Peterson waved a glass in her direction, his face flushed with excitement and artificial bubbly. "We won. The monsters are dead. Science can wait until tomorrow." Emily adjusted her spectral analyzer, fine-tuning the frequency range. The crystalline debris field stretched before them, fragments of the fallen colossal mothership catching starlight like a sea of diamonds. 3 months ago, these same crystals had powered weapons that nearly wiped out the human fleet. Now they drifted lifelessly, except for that signal. "Just 5 more minutes," she muttered, knowing it was a lie. She'd been saying 5 more minutes for the past 3 hours. The signal pulsed again, stronger this time. Emily's hands trembled as she isolated the frequency. It wasn't random radiation or electromagnetic echoes from the battle. The pattern was too structured, too precise. It reminded her of old binary code, but far more complex, operating on multiple quantum states simultaneously. A shadow fell across her display. "Dr. Brooks." Captain Rivera's voice carried the weight of authority earned during the war. "The salvage crews need to start their work. We're scheduled to clear this sector by 600. Emily spun in her chair, nearly knocking over her cold coffee. "Captain, look at this pattern. It's not debris noise. It's a message. The Colossals, they're trying to." "The Colossals are dead." Rivera cut her off, his expression hardening. "Every last one of them. Humanity made sure of that, and at a cost I don't need to remind you of." Emily bit her lip, remembering the casualty reports. The victory had been decisive but devastating. Earth's combined fleet had lost 30% of its ships and crew. The captain's own sister had commanded one of those lost vessels. "Sir, I understand, but..." She pulled up a comparison chart. "Look at these wavelength variances. They match known communication protocols. Someone or something is transmitting data through these crystals." Rivera studied the display, his frown deepening. "And you think the species that spent the last 50 years trying to exterminate us decided to leave us a goodbye note?" "I think..." Emily paused, choosing her words carefully. "I think we're missing something crucial. The Colossals were advanced beyond our comprehension. Why would they attack us so relentlessly, only to fall to relatively primitive human weapons? What if this wasn't just a war? What if it was a test?" The captain's laugh was bitter. "A test? Tell that to the families of everyone we lost." "Give me 24 hours, Emily pleaded. "Let me assemble a team. Analyze the signal properly. If I'm wrong, you lose a day of salvage work. But if I'm right..." She gestured at the debris field. "This could be the most important discovery in human history." Rivera was silent for a long moment, staring out at the glittering crystal fragments. Finally, he sighed. "You have 12 hours, not a minute more." "And Brooks..." His eyes met hers. "If this turns out to be a wild goose chase, your career in the science division is over. I'll make sure of it." Emily nodded, already turning back to her instruments. As Rivera walked away, the signal pulsed again, stronger than ever. In its rhythmic pattern, she could almost hear words, a message waiting to be decoded. Whatever the Colossals had been trying to tell humanity, she had 12 hours to figure it out, or lose everything trying. Commander Jack Morrison stood before the Galactic Council's emergency session, his dress uniform feeling too tight around the neck. The circular chamber towered above him, filled with representatives from 200 species. Most of them wanted the colossal remains destroyed immediately. He couldn't blame them. He'd spent years fighting those crystalline monsters. Commander Morrison, Ambassador Zixtel's translators conveyed their clicking speech into standard English. "Your combat record against the Colossals is unmatched. Surely you, of all humans, understand the necessity of destroying these remains. Jack's hand unconsciously touched the scar running down his jaw, a souvenir from the final battle. With respect, Ambassador, I understand the fear, but Dr. Brooks's findings deserve investigation. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Mersian delegate, a floating cloud of bioluminescent gas, flashed angry patterns of red and orange. The human scientist who claims to hear messages in dead crystals. We expected better judgment from you, Commander. Jack activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. The signal pattern Emily had discovered floated before them, pulsing in its complex rhythm. 3 years ago, my ship, the VSS Normandy, was cut off behind colossal lines. We transmitted a desperate signal using modulated tachyon bursts, hoping to avoid detection. Look at this pattern comparison. He overlaid the Normandy's old transmission with Emily's discovery. The patterns weren't identical, but the similarity was undeniable. Several council members leaned forward, their species' various expressions of interest impossible to mistake. This could be coincidence, the Mersian delegate flickered skeptically. Or it could be deliberate, Jack countered. The Colossals were brutal, yes, but they were also brilliant. Everything they did had purpose. Why would they use a communication method so similar to ours? Ambassador Zixtal's antennae twitched. What exactly are you suggesting, Commander? I'm suggesting we don't know the whole story. The Colossals fought us for 50 years, but they've existed for millions. They had technology that made our best weapons look like stone axes, yet we won. Doesn't that strike anyone else as strange? Before the council could respond, Jack's neural implant buzzed. A priority message from Emily Brooks. Need you in Lab 7. Now. Found something impossible. Distinguished council members, Jack straightened his posture, falling back on years of military discipline. I request a 48-hour delay on any demolition orders. Give us time to investigate. If we're wrong, you lose 2 days. If we're right. He let the sentence hang. The chamber erupted in argument, hundreds of translation devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Ambassador Zixtal raised all 4 arms for silence. You stake your reputation on this, Commander. I stake everything on it. 24 hours, the ambassador clicked. Not 1 minute more. And Morrison, their compound eyes fixed on him. If this validates the destruction protocols, you will personally lead the demolition fleet. Are we clear? Crystal, Ambassador. Jack saluted and strode from the chamber, already heading for Lab 7. His implant buzzed again. Hurry, you need to see this before they shut us down. The research facility was 11 levels down, in the high-security sector. Jack's combat reflexes noted every detail as he walked. The increased security patrols, the nervous glances from scientists, the subtle hum of enhanced containment fields. Whatever Emily had found, others were already nervous about it. Lab 7's doors hissed open at his approach. Emily stood before a containment chamber, her face illuminated by the soft blue glow of a crystal fragment. She didn't turn as he entered. Remember how you said the signal reminded you of your distress call? Her voice was tight with excitement or fear, maybe both. Watch this. She pressed her hand against the containment field. The crystal's glow intensified, and the signal pattern changed. It wasn't just similar to the Normandy's transmission anymore. It was an exact match. You're all crazy, Dr. Marcus Thompson declared, pacing Lab 7 with manic energy. But the good kind of crazy. The breakthrough kind. He ran his fingers through his disheveled hair, leaving it standing even more on end. The kind that either gets you a Nobel Prize or committed to a psychiatric facility. Katie Sullivan didn't look up from her crystallographic analysis station. Shut up and help me calibrate these quantum sensors, Marcus. We've got. She checked her holowatch, 18 hours before they torch everything. 17 hours, 43 minutes, Dr. David Reynolds corrected from his corner. The linguist hadn't moved from his spot for 6 hours, surrounded by holographic projections of ancient communication systems. Sumerian cuneiform floated next to Voynich manuscript pages and decoded alien transmissions from humanity's first contact events. Emily Brooks watched her hastily assembled team with equal parts hope and desperation. These weren't the experts the military would have chosen. They were the ones nobody else would work with. Marcus had been laughed out of 3 universities for his theories about quantum consciousness and alien communications. Katie's obsession with finding patterns in crystalline structures had cost her a prestigious position at MIT. And David had spent the last 5 years trying to prove that human language itself was based on an ancient alien template. Commander Morrison stood by the door, watching the organized chaos with military stoicism. "Brooks, we need something concrete. The Council's patience won't last." I know. Emily rubbed her temples. "Katie, what's the latest on the structural analysis?" "It's like nothing I've ever seen." Katie's fingers danced over her holographic controls. "The crystalline matrix isn't just storing data, it's processing it. These aren't dead remains. They're more like dormant computer cores." Marcus stopped pacing. "Wait, show me the quantum state fluctuations again." Katie pulled up the data. The crystal's quantum signatures pulsed in complex patterns, like a heartbeat in multiple dimensions. "Holy shit," Marcus whispered. "It's not just processing, it's thinking." David suddenly stood up, scattering his holographic projections. "The patterns, they're not just similar to human communications, they're evolving to match them. Every time we interact with the crystals, they adjust their output to become more comprehensible to us." "That's impossible," Morrison said, but Emily could hear the doubt in his voice. Katie's station suddenly erupted in alerts. "Something's happening. The quantum state's air." The crystal in the containment field pulsed with brilliant light. Emily's coffee mug vibrated off the edge of her desk, shattering on the floor. The spilled liquid spread across the laboratory's smooth surface, and where it touched scattered crystal fragments, it created rippling patterns. "Look," Katie was already recording with every sensor she had. "The liquid's surface tension is being manipulated at the quantum level. The crystals are using it as a medium to write," David finished, his voice filled with awe. "Those patterns, they're not random. They're transforming into..." The spilled coffee had formed perfect English letters. "We see chose you for a reason." The room fell silent except for the hum of equipment. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. Commander Morrison stepped forward, his military bearing momentarily forgotten. "It's aware," Marcus whispered. "It's been aware this whole time, watching us, learning how we communicate." His eyes were wide with the implications. The Colossals weren't just leaving a message. They left us their consciousness. Emily's mind raced with possibilities. If we can establish proper communication. The crystal pulsed again. More coffee ripples formed new words. "Time short, void comes." "Well," Katie said into the stunned silence, "I guess we know why they're in such a hurry." Morrison was already activating his neural implant. "I'm calling an emergency council session. Whatever's coming, they need to know." "Wait." Emily held up her hand as more words appeared in the coffee. "As if them would aid humanity we can do." The Galactic Council chamber had never been so silent. On the central holographic display, coffee-formed words floated alongside quantum analysis data. Emily stood beside Commander Morrison, her heart hammering as 200 species confronted a truth that shattered 50 years of assumptions. Ambassador Zixtel's translator struggled to convey their shock. "They were protecting us." "Not exactly." Emily stepped forward, bringing up new data streams. "The Colossals weren't protecting us. They were preparing us. Every battle, every seemingly cruel attack, was calculated to push humanity in specific directions." The Mersian delegate's bioluminescence pulsed with skepticism. "You expect us to believe they destroy human colonies to help us? Look at the attack patterns." Katie Sullivan took control of the display, her fingers dancing through the holographic data. Every destroyed colony was rebuilt with better defenses. Every lost battle led to technological breakthroughs. The Colossals never struck to annihilate. They struck to evolve. Marcus Thompson pulled up his quantum readings. Their consciousness matrix shows decision trees spanning centuries. They weren't fighting a war. They were running the galaxy's most elaborate training program. Training for what? The question came from a dozen species at once. Emily glanced at Morrison, who nodded grimly. She brought up the latest crystal communications, not in coffee this time, but precisely arranged across a quantum interference pattern. Void entities exist behitoi in dimensions. They consume reality. We yield them back. No, you missed. The chamber erupted in chaos. Species with natural telepathy recoiled from the implications. Those with quantum-sensitive organs began experiencing feedback loops. Even the usually stoic Mergen delegate flickered in distress. Impossible, Ambassador Zixtal declared, but their clicking had lost its certainty. If such entities existed, we would have detected them. David Reynolds stepped forward, his linguistics background lending weight to his words. Would we? How do you detect something that exists between the dimensions we can perceive? The Colossal's crystal technology operates on quantum principles we're only beginning to understand. Show them. Emily nodded to Katie. The holographic display shifted to a recording from Lab 7. A crystal fragment pulsed with inner light as it generated a multi-dimensional model. The image showed reality as layers, like pages in a book. Between those layers, something moved. Something that didn't translate well into three-dimensional space. That's a void entity. Morrison asked, his hand unconsciously moving to his weapon. That's just its shadow, Marcus corrected. The real thing exists in dimensions our brains can't process. But look what happens when we introduce human brainwave patterns. The display changed. Human neural activity, when combined with their quantum computing technology, created interference patterns in the void space. The shadow thing recoiled. This is why they chose us, Emily explained, her voice gaining strength. Human consciousness, properly augmented, naturally disrupts void entity manifestation. The Colossals spent millions of years holding them back with pure computational power. But we're biological quantum computers. We can do it inherently. Ambassador Zixtal's translator clicked rapidly. The implications, if you're right. We're right, Morrison's voice carried the weight of battlefield authority. And we're running out of time. The Colossals didn't just fall in that final battle. They sacrificed themselves to pass their knowledge to the species best suited to use it. As if on cue, every quantum sensor in the chamber spiked. Between the layers of the holographic display, something twisted, something that shouldn't exist in any sane universe. Well, Katie said, her voice surprisingly steady as she watched reality bend. I guess they weren't exaggerating about the time pressure. Emily stepped forward, her face illuminated by the otherworldly distortion. The Colossals spent 50 years making sure we were ready for this moment. The question is, are we going to prove them right? The crystal fragments in Lab 7 pulsed in response, their message clear. No is a show with them. Woe fly we she shows you. The void entity twisted through Lab 7's quantum sensors like a fractal nightmare. Emily and her team worked frantically, their movements synchronized by desperate necessity. Around them, reality itself seemed to shiver. Multiple dimensional breaches detected. Katie's hands flew across her holographic controls. They're testing our defenses, looking for weak points in local spacetime. Marcus studied the readings with wide eyes. It's beautiful in a terrifying, reality-breaking way. The mathematical complexity of their existence. Less admiring, more defending, Morrison interrupted, coordinating with Earth's defense grid through his neural implant. Brooks, please tell me you have something. Emily connected another crystal array, watching energy patterns pulse through the lattice structure. The Colossals left us their defense protocols, but they're encoded in quantum states. We need to. Space twisted. For a moment, everyone in the lab experienced time differently. Katie saw her own movements a second before she made them. Marcus witnessed probability waves collapse in real time. David heard languages that couldn't exist. That, Emily gasped, fighting down nausea, was just a probe. The real incursion's coming. The main display showed feed from orbital sensors. Void entities weren't visible to normal cameras, but their effects were impossible to miss. Stars seemed to skip positions, light bent in ways that made physicists cry, and in the spaces between spaces, something vast was stirring. Playing the recording from the crystal core, David announced, his voice tight. The translation appeared on their screens. The UNMAKEXISTNC. Entire civilizations, ERAC'd. Nuk just KLD. Navy or were. We do ATCAHDJALXIs. FO or G keep them selvies. How do you fight something that can erase you from history? Katie whispered. Marcus pulled up new data streams. Look at these quantum interference patterns. The void entities operate on principles similar to quantum observation collapse. They don't just destroy. They alter probability states until their targets never existed. Morrison's face hardened. Then how do we remember the civilizations they erased? Because the Colossals remembered for us, Emily realized, understanding flooding through her. Their crystalline nature let them exist partially outside normal spacetime. They were anchors of reality, maintaining the memory of what was lost. The lab's sensors screamed. A full-dimensional breach was forming. Brooks. Morrison's voice carried the edge of command. Whatever you're going to do it now. Emily's fingers danced across controls. Katie, route power to the crystal array. Marcus, I need those quantum fields synchronized. David, translate this. She pressed her hand against the main crystal cluster. The entire array lit up with internal fire, quantum states aligned. And there, in the space between thoughts, Emily felt them, the encoded consciousness of the Colossals, waiting to show humanity how to fight. The crystal's message formed in sheets of pure quantum probability. Your mind is bridgy realities. Your theogugich is shehequantum states. Tovg there, we be the and jor. Reanimbr. Or those who afford GT. That's it. Marcus shouted. Human consciousness naturally generates quantum interference patterns. We don't just disrupt void entities, we can anchor reality against their influence. The dimensional breach widened. Through it, they glimpsed something that hurt to perceive. A geometry of wrongness that made fractal patterns seem simple, but where human minds focused, where human thoughts touched quantum-enhanced technology, reality held firm. All stations, this is Commander Morrison. Jack's voice was steady as he broadcast globally. We are engaging in humanity's first defense action against void entity incursion. All personnel with quantum-enhanced neural implants linked to your nearest crystal array. Stand firm. Remember. Emily watched as humanity's collective consciousness, augmented by colossal technology, created a wall of pure remembering. The void entities struggled against it, trying to unmake the space they occupied. But humans, with their messy, quantum-affecting minds, refused to forget. They remembered for everyone who couldn't. The breach began to close. Well, Katie managed a shaky smile as reality stabilized. I guess now we know why they picked the most stubborn species in the galaxy. The crystal arrays pulsed in agreement. You remember. You persist. You are ready. Play it again, Emily requested, studying the holographic replay of humanity's first successful void defense. The scene filled the Pentagon's secure briefing room, where Earth's highest military and scientific leaders had gathered for her team's presentation. Katie adjusted the playback speed, highlighting the interaction between human neural patterns and the crystal technology. Watch what happens when the collective consciousness field engages. Those ripple patterns. That's human thought literally stabilizing local space-time. Incredible. General Santos leaned forward, her cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed the data. But can we replicate it on a larger scale? Marcus stepped up, his usual nervous energy focused to laser precision. That's the beautiful part. The Colossal's crystal tech acts as an amplifier for human consciousness. The more minds we link, the stronger the effect. He grinned. Turns out our messy, emotional, quantum-affecting brains are the perfect weapon against cosmic horror. Not a weapon, David corrected, without looking up from his translations. A shield. The Colossals didn't choose us because we could kill void entities. They chose us because we could remember. Emily brought up new displays, showing the neural interface designs they'd extracted from the crystal data. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our stubborn refusal to forget. Our minds naturally resist probability manipulation. We dream in quantum states. We imagine impossible things and make them real. And that's what the void fears, Morrison added from his position by the wall. They can erase existence, but they can't erase human memory. Not completely. The room's main crystal array pulsed, adding its own message to the discussion. Humanity DRAMs. Dreams ECHO through QUANTUM space. Dreams BECOM real. Reality REMBRs. General Santos studied the message, her cybernetic eye processing the quantum fluctuations. You're telling me the key to saving the galaxy is human imagination. Combined with colossal crystal technology, yes. Emily pulled up the neural interface schematics. These designs will let us create a network of human consciousness, amplified by crystal arrays, a quantum defense grid powered by human thought. There's more, Katie added, bringing up new data streams. The crystal tech doesn't just amplify our natural abilities. It learns from us, evolves with us. The more we use it, the better it adapts to human consciousness. Marcus pointed to a particularly complex series of quantum equations. We're not just using their technology. We're improving it. Human creativity is literally reshaping the crystal matrix at the quantum level. David finally looked up from his translations. The Colossals were logical, ordered, perfect. But they couldn't dream, couldn't imagine new possibilities. That's why they needed us. The crystal array pulsed again. We were Juvardians. URECUREATORs. Together. Perfect. Morrison stepped forward. The void entities are testing our defenses daily. Each probe gets stronger. We need to implement these systems globally and fast. There's a catch, Emily said, bringing up population statistics. The neural interfaces only work with humans who have a specific brainwave pattern. About 30% of the population. The dreamers, David explained. People whose minds naturally generate stronger quantum interference patterns. Artists, musicians, children. Anyone who spends time imagining impossible things. General Santos' human eye widened. You're saying our best defense against cosmic horror is creative people, Katie finished. The ones who see patterns in chaos, who make connections nobody else sees, who refuse to accept that something can't be done. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's survival wouldn't depend on its soldiers or its scientists alone, but on its dreamers, its storytellers, its visionaries. The crystal array's message seemed to glow with possibility. Your strength is CAKA. Your power is DREMs. Your key to ORI is imagination. Emily looked at her assembled team. The brilliant misfits who'd seen patterns nobody else believed in, and smiled. The Colossals chose humanity because we do the impossible every day. We imagine things that can't exist, and then we make them real. Well, Morrison said, checking his neural implants feed of the latest Void activity. Let's go make the impossible real again. The universe needs dreamers. 30 days into Project Dreamcatcher, and Emily hadn't slept in what felt like years. The global neural network hummed around her, connecting millions of human minds through crystalline matrices. In the command center's main display, she watched the quantum defense grid take shape, a web of human consciousness spanning the planet. Paris Hub is online, Katie announced, her voice rough from too much coffee. Neural synchronization at 94% and climbing. The artist's colony there is generating some amazing interference patterns. Marcus pulled up the data, whistling low. Look at these quantum signatures. 1,000 painters, writers, and musicians, all dreaming together. The Void doesn't stand a chance. Tokyo reporting increased Void activity. Morrison's voice cut through their excitement. Multiple probability fluctuations in the Shinjuku district. Reality distortions reaching critical levels. Emily's fingers flew across her console, routing additional dreamers to the Asian grid. David, how's the children's initiative? David looked up from his station, where he'd been coordinating with schools worldwide. Elementary schools are our strongest nodes. Kids don't just imagine, they believe. Their quantum interference patterns are off the charts. The main crystal array pulsed with urgent messages. Void entities gather. Largest intuition yet. Show them your strength. Multiple breaches forming. Katie's hands danced across holographic controls. They're trying to split our attention, hitting several points at once. Emily watched the tactical display as reality itself began to warp. Void entities, larger than any they'd encountered, pushed against the fabric of space-time. But where human consciousness touched the crystal network, reality held firm. Route the Paris Dreamers to Sector 3, Morrison ordered. Get the Tokyo Anime Studios online. Their creative output is generating massive quantum shields. Marcus monitored the neural loads. We're seeing unprecedented synchronization. The crystal tech is evolving faster than we predicted, adapting to human thought patterns in real time. A breach widened over New York, reality twisting like a Mobius strip, but then something remarkable happened. The city's theaters and art galleries, linked through crystal nodes, poured their collective imagination into the defense grid. Broadway dancers dreamed of impossible movements. Artists painted reality back into shape. Musicians composed songs that became quantum barriers. This is incredible, David breathed, watching the data streams. They're not just defending, they're creating. Look at these patterns. He was right. The human crystal network wasn't merely holding reality together, it was enhancing it. Where void entities touched, humanity's dreamers left their mark. New forms of art emerged from the quantum interference. Music that existed in multiple probability states simultaneously. Paintings that captured 5-dimensional space on 2-dimensional canvas. The crystal array's message glowed with pride. UEXEED expectations. Creation DFEETs. UNMAKI. G dreams BCOBME real. Multiple void entities retreating, Katie reported, grinning. The quantum field is stabilizing. Whatever we're doing, it's working. Emily studied the global network with a mixture of awe and vindication. We're not just using the Colossal's technology anymore. We're transforming it, making it our own. Look at these readings. Marcus pointed to a complex data stream. The crystal matrix is incorporating human creativity into its basic structure. It's becoming something entirely new, not colossal, not human, but both. Morrison checked the tactical display. All breaches sealed. That's the fastest response we've had yet. The system's learning. No, Emily corrected, watching humanity's dreamers work their magic through the crystal network. We're learning. The Colossals gave us the tools, but what we're building now is purely human. Our art, our music, our stories. They're becoming part of the universe's fundamental structure. The crystal array pulsed one final time. Our JFT to you. Your JFT to existence. The purification is what he does it is. Well, Katie said, watching New York's artists paint quantum shields across reality, I guess this gives new meaning to the term creative defense. Emily smiled, remembering how it all started with a simple signal in a debris field. The Colossals weren't just leaving us their legacy. They were giving us the chance to create our own. Incoming breach. Morrison's warning cut through the moment. This one's bigger than anything we've seen. Good, Emily said, watching humanity's dreamers rally to the defense. Let's show them what human imagination can really do. The dimensional breach over Central Park twisted reality into impossible geometries. Emily stood in the command center, watching humanity face its greatest test. The void had gathered its strength for one massive assault, trying to unmake Earth itself. All Dreamer hubs report ready. Katie's voice was steady despite the chaos. Neural synchronization at maximum capacity. Crystal network functioning at 130% of design specs. Marcus added, wonder in his tone. The human improvements to the system they're beautiful. Morrison's tactical display showed the scale of their defense. Millions of minds linked through crystal matrices, each contributor adding their unique spark to the quantum shield. Artists painted reality stable. Musicians composed barriers in five-dimensional harmony. Children's pure imagination reinforced the walls of existence. They're pushing through in Sector 7. David called out. Reality distortion reaching critical levels. Emily watched as probability waves collapsed around the breach. The void entities were larger than any they'd encountered, their non-Euclidean forms threatening to shred spacetime itself. But where they touched the human defense grid, they found something unexpected. Dreams, stories, songs, art. The crystal array blazed with urgent communication. No. Show them. What shall we shows you? All hubs, Emily's voice carried across the global network, execute protocol imagination. Across the planet, humanity's dreamers poured their creativity into the crystal matrix. The network didn't just defend reality, it began to shape it. New York's artists painted quantum shields in colors that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Tokyo's Anim Studios projected impossible stories that became real in the space between moments. Paris's musicians composed symphonies that harmonized with the fundamental frequencies of existence. Look at these patterns, Marcus exclaimed. The crystal tech isn't just amplifying human consciousness anymore. It's evolving, becoming something entirely new. He was right. Where colossal technology met human creativity, reality itself seemed to bloom. The void entities recoiled from expressions of pure imagination, their entropy-inducing powers useless against the chaos of human dreams. Multiple entities retreating, Morrison reported, his military bearing touched with awe. They can't maintain their presence against this level of creation, Emily finished. They unmake. We create. And creation. She smiled as another wave of human imagination poured through the crystal network, is stronger than entropy. The main breach began to collapse, reality knitting itself back together with threads of human dreams. But in that moment of victory, the crystal array pulsed with one final warning. Void concentrates. Binal assault. Remember who you are. The fabric of spacetime shuddered as the void made its last, desperate attempt. Reality itself began to unravel around Central Park, but humanity was ready. All dreamers. Emily broadcast globally. Give it everything. Show them what human imagination can do. The response was beyond anything they predicted. Children's drawings became quantum shields. Poets' words restructured probability. Dancers' movements wove space-time back together. Every human linked to the network poured their dreams, their hopes, their pure creative force into the defense. And in that moment, something unprecedented happened. The crystal technology, evolved through weeks of human use, didn't just amplify their efforts. It learned to dream itself. Colossal logic merged with human creativity, creating a defense that existed in all possibilities simultaneously. The void entities, faced with this explosion of pure creation, couldn't maintain their assault. Reality snapped back into place, stronger than before, enriched by the dreams that had defended it. All breaches sealed, Katie reported, tears in her eyes. The void, they're retreating. Not just here, everywhere. We're getting reports from across the galaxy. The crystal array's final message glowed with something that felt like joy. You have the drone. Beyond our hopes. The future. Yours. Emily looked at her team. The brilliant misfits who'd helped humanity find its true strength. And smiled. The Colossals chose us because they saw what we could become. Not just defenders of reality, but dreamers who could make it better. So, Morrison asked, watching the quantum defense grid pulse with human creativity, what do we dream up next? The answer came not from the crystal array, but from the millions of linked human minds, their combined imagination reaching for the stars. Everything.